Nasagasaan ng humaharurot na truck ang isang highway worker sa Interstate 81 road sa US.
Alamin kung nakaligtas ang driver ng sasakyan mula sa mga detalye na balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Rikki, Alagao, Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Biyernes ng gabi.
Pilipinas maglalabas ng panibagong mapa para tapatan ang 9-dash line ng China.
Philippine Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez nagbabala sa inaasahang mass deportation ng Trump administration.
Taiwan Coast Guard gagamit ng people power para malaman ang mga aktibidad ng China.
Lewatobi, laki-laki volcano sa Indonesia muling pumutok.
At 60% import tax inaasahang ipatutupad ng Trump administration ayon sa mga analysts. Pirmado na ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang dalawang batas na magsusulong sa territorial integrity ng Pilipinas.
Ngayong Biyernes ay isa ng batas ang Philippine Maritime Zones Act at ang Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act.
With these pieces of legislation, we align our domestic laws with international law, specifically the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, or UNCLOS, to improve our capacity for governance and reinforce our maritime policies for economic development and for national security.
Sa ilalim ng Philippine Maritime Zones Act, idineklara ang maritime zones ng Pilipinas alinsunod sa pamantayan na itinakda ng United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea o UNCLOS. Habang ang Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes naman ay nagtatakda ng ruta sa katubigan at airspace ng Pilipinas kung saan layon nito na maingatan ang paglalayag ng mga foreign ships at aircraft, partikular na hindi makompromiso ang national security o mapababa ang uri ng good environmental stewardship ng Pilipinas. Binigyan diin ni Pangulong Marcos Jr. na mahalaga ang dalawang batas para matiyak ang karapatan ng Pilipinas. Nakaapekto rin anya sa domestic laws at regulasyon sa national at local level ang mga bagong batas. Pero tiwala ang Pangulo na pahihintulutan ng mga naturang batas ng Pilipinas na madepensahan ang teritoryo nito.
Matapos lagdaan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang dalawang batas na lalong magpapalakas sa territorial integrity ng Pilipinas, ay maglalabas naman ng National Mapping ang Resource Information Authority o NAMRIA ng isang bago at updated map ng Pilipinas. Dahil dito ay tatawagin ng talampas ng Pilipinas ang West Philippine Sea at ang Benham Rise. Kinumpirma ni NAMRIA Director Peter Chanco na handa na ang nasabing bago mapa para sa final vetting. Ipakikita sa bago mapa ng Pilipinas ang iba pang maritime rights ng bansa, alinsunod mismo sa UNCLOS at sa arbitral ruling na inilabas ng Hague noong taong 2016. Dagdag pa ni Chanco, nakaspecify din sa mapa ang coordinates ng mga maritime features ng bansa. Anya, napakamaselang bagay ang paggawa ng bagong opisyal na mapa ng Pilipinas, kaya dapat ay maging maingat ang gobyerno ukol dito. Paliwanag pa ng opisyal, malaki ang pagkakaiba ng ilalabas ng updated map ng Pilipinas dahil may legal basis ito at naaayon sa mga batas ng bansa. Kaugnay nito ay ipinatawag naman ng China ang ambassador ng Pilipinas upang ipahayag ang pagtutol nito sa dalawang bagong batas na pinirmahan ni Pangulong Marcos. Ayon sa China, iligal umanong isinama ng Maritime Zones Law ang Hwangyan Island at ang Nansha Island ng Beijing. Ang dalawang isla ay kilala bilang Scarborough Shoal at Spratly Islands. Wala pang pahayag ang gobyerno ng bansa ukol sa sinabi ng China. Subalit sa panig naman ng NAMRIA, ilalathala lamang nila ang bagong mapa ng Pilipinas kapag nailabas at epektibo na ang implementing rules and regulations para sa Philippine Maritime Zones Act.
Muling pinagtibay ni Foreign Affairs Secretary Rikki ang commitment ng Pilipinas na ipagpatuloy ang ugnayan nito sa Estados Unidos. Ipinabot ng kalihim ang kanyang pagbati sa US sa matagumpay nitong presidential elections noong November 5. Handa rin si Secretary Manalo na makipagtulungan sa kanyang US counterparts tungo sa pagpapatibay pa ng alyansa ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos. Si US President-elect Donald Trump ang naihalal na ika-47 Pangulo ng Estados Unidos na minsan ang namuno noong 2017 hanggang 2021 bilang ika-45 presidente nito.
Pinayuhan ni Philippine Ambassador to the United States Jose Manuel Romualdez na umuwi na sa Pilipinas sa mga undocumented Filipino workers sa Estados Unidos bago mag-assume sa pagiging Pangulo si President-elect Donald Trump sa susunod na taon. Ayon sa diplomat, asahan na ang pinakamalaking deportation efforts sa American history sa ilalim ng bagong Trump administration. Anya, dahil panalo ang Republican Party sa congressional elections ay malaki ang tsansang magpapairal ang Trump administration ng mas mahigpit na immigration laws. Batay sa datos ng gobyerno, nasa 250,000 hanggang 300,000 ang mga undocumented Filipino sa Estados Unidos.
Nasa Senate plenary na ang panukalang batas na permanenteng iba ng mga Philippine Offshore Gaming Operators o POGO sa Pilipinas matapos itong i-endorso ng Senate Committee on Ways and Means. Sa ilalim ng Senate Bill 2868, simula January 1, 2025, bawal nang magtayo o mag-operate ng mga POGO hub sa bansa. Ire-revoke na rin ang lahat ng lisensya na inisyu ng PAGCOR, Special Economic Zone, Tourism Zone Authority at ng Freeport Authority. Kakanselahin din pati lahat ng mga working permits at visa na ibinigay sa lahat ng POGO workers. Malaki ang suporta ng mayorya ng mga senador sa naturang panukala kung saan ay 20 mambabatas ang lumagda sa committee report ukol dito. Ang pagsusulong sa panukala ay ang pagtugon ng mga mambabata sa kautusan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na tuluyang ipagbawal ang POGO bago matapos ang taong 2024.
Umabot na sa 20,369 na katao ang inilikas dahil sa bagyong Marce. Ayon sa ulat ng National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council o NDRRMC, 11,476 ang nanunuluyan ngayon sa 186 na evacuation centers. Ang iba ay pansamantalang tumuloy muna sa kanilang mga kaanak. Binanggit din ng NDRRMC na ang mga naapektuhang pamilya ay residente ng 239 na barangay at mula sa 45 bayan at 7 probinsya sa Regions 1 and 2 at maging sa Cordillera Administrative Region.
Nakumpiska ng Philippine National Police o PNP ang halos 8 milyong pisong halaga ng shabu sa magkahiwalay na operasyon sa Quezon City at Zamboanga nitong Biyernes. Ayon sa PNP Drug Enforcement Group, 3 high-value individuals ang naaresto sa isinagawang buy-bust operation. Ang mga sospek ay nakuhanan ng humigit kumulang 1 kilong shabu kasama pa ang ibang mga ebidensya. Sila ay pansamantalang nasa kustodiya ngayon ng mga pulis sa Camp Bagong Diwa sa Taguig City para sa dokumentasyon ng mga ebidensya, habang ang mga nakumpiskang drug paraphernalia ay dinala na sa Camp Crame sa Quezon City.
Asahan ang higit sa pisong dagdag sa presyo ng oil products sa susunod na linggo. Ayon sa projection ng Department of Energy Oil Industry Management Bureau, posibleng tumaas ng 1 peso and 10 centavos hanggang 1 peso and 40 centavos ang presyo ng kada litro ng gasolina. Nasa 1 peso and 70 centavos hanggang 1 peso and 90 centavos naman ang posibleng dagdag sa presyo ng kada litro ng diesel. Ang kerosino gas naman ay pwede maragdagan ng 1 peso and 10 centavos hanggang 1 peso and 20 centavos ang presyo sa kada litro nito. Susunod, South Korea kinukonsidera na magpadala ng military aid sa Ukraine.
Mahigit 1,500 katao nasawi sa Gaza sa nakaraang buwan.
At European leaders nawagan kay Trump na suportahan ang Ukraine. Mga detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Choose Supreme Pure Organic Barley.
It is 100% pure organic barley straight from Australia. Certified super brands. The first alkaline-based barley in the Philippines. High pH level, 7.9 alkaline level, 68 micronutrients, non-acidic. It helps boost immune system, improves digestion, high in antioxidants, regulates blood sugar level and cholesterol. Waglang Basta Barley. Dapat alkaline-based Supreme Pure Organic Barley.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Inanunsyo ng Taiwan Coast Guard na magkakaloob ito ng reward money para sa mga individual na makapag-uulat sa mga aktibidad ng China, partikular na ang maritime activities. Makakatanggap ng $6,000 ang makapag-uulat din ng mga krimen katulad ng piracy, murder, arson o hostage-taking. May reward naman na mahigit sa $1,500 ang mga magsusuplong ng mga iligal na pagpasok ng mga Chinese nationals at halos $100 para sa mga ulat ng Chinese warships na mapatutunayang pumasok sa teritoryo ng isla. Ayon sa mga otoridad, malaki ang tulong ng mga mamamayan nito dahil sa kulang ang kanilang puwersa sa militar. Ito ay dahil sa madalas na military drills ng China sa mga nagdaang buwan, kabilang na ang isinagawang Joint Sword 2024B drills sa palibot ng Taiwan.
Lubos naman ang paghahanda ng China para sa biggest civil and military air show nito, kung saan nakatakdang ibida ng Beijing ang kanilang homegrown stealth fighter jet. Nakatakdang magbukas ang China International Aviation and Aerospace Exhibition sa November 12 at tatagal hanggang November 17 sa Southern Bay City ng Zhuhai. Kilala rin sa tawag na Zhuhai Air Show ang event kung saan ay paraan ito ng China na ipakita ang patuloy na paglago ng aerospace industry ng bansa. Samantala, kinumpirma ng People's Liberation Army Air Force ang public debut ng J-35A stealth fighter jet nila. Ayon sa mga military analysts, ang naturang aircraft ay mula sa naunang disenyo nito na FC-31. Subalit, marami ang nakapupuna na kahawig ito ng American F-35 Lightning II fighter jet. Inaasahang makikilahok din ang Russia sa naturang air show para makiisa sa military commitments ng Beijing.
Hindi sinasantabi ni South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol na magpadala ng armas sa Ukraine. Ito ay matapos lumabas ang mga balitang nagpadala ang North Korea ng mahigit 10,000 sundalo nito sa Russia para tumulong sa pakikidigma nito sa Ukraine.
아시아 태평양 또 글로벌 지역에서 이런 한미 동맹을 바탕으로 해서 강력한 그 연대와 파트너십을 갖자고 하는 얘기도 나왔고요. 그리고 딱 북핵에 대한 얘기보다도 북한에 대한 관심을 좀 가지고 계신지 먼저 얘기를 좀 하셨습니다. 그래서
Ayon kay President Yoon, ang pagsali ng North Korea sa Moscow-Kiev war ay isang banta sa South Korea. Anya, dahil dito ay nagkakaroon ng combat experience sa mga sundalo ng Pyongyang, isang bagay na kulang sa militar nito. Bukod sa military experience, ay nagbibigay din umano ang Russia ng mga sensitibong military tech kapalit ng pagtulong ng North Korea.
Kinumpirma ni Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na may mga nasawing North Korean troops sa pakikipaglaban nito sa puwersa ng Kyiv. Narito po ang report ni Michelle Verzonilla.
Ayon kay Pangulong Volodymyr Zelensky ng Ukraine, sa 11,000 North Korean troops na ipinadala sa Russia, marami na ang nasawi sa gitna ng labanan.
11 тисяч частина з цих військ вже брала участь в бойових діях і проти українських військових.
Sa news conference sa European Political Community Summit sa Budapest, sinabi ni Zelensky na naniniwala siyang mas marami pang North Korean troops na ipapadala sa Russia hanggat walang aksyong ginagawa ang iba bilang tugon.
Наступний крок, якщо ми не будемо застосовувати відповідну зброю і політичний тиск на Російську Федерацію, наступний крок може бути набагато більше використання північно-корейського контингенту.
Ani Zelensky, anumang pag-uusap ukol sa ceasefire na walang kasunduang ukol sa garantiya ng seguridad para sa Ukraine ay sadyang mapanganib.
Припинення вогню, коли немає далі гарантій безпеки для України, зрозуміло, в які віримо ми реально, не просто риторичні якісь гарантії безпеки, а ми реально в них віримо, бо вони такі існують. Так ось це припинення вогню, підготовка до продовження окупації України і руйнації нашої незалежності і суверенітету. Ось що таке сьогодні ceasefire.
Dagdag pa ni Zelensky, wala siyang alam kahit anong detalye ukol sa plano ni US President-elect Donald Trump na tapusin agad ang gera. Anya, hindi nila pinag-usapan ito. Ayon kay Zelensky, naniniwala siya sa gusto ni Trump na wakasan na ang labanan, subalit hindi ibig sabihin mangyayari ito. Michelle Verzonilla para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected on point.
Isang araw matapos ang election victory ni US President-elect Donald Trump ay nagpulong ang 40 European leaders para pag-usapan ang seguridad ng Europa. Nagkasundo ang mga ito na huwag umasa sa proteksyon na kayang ibigay ng Estados Unidos. Bernard Gonzaga para sa report.
Matapos magpulong sa Budapest ng higit sa 40 European leaders sa Summit of the European Political Community o EPC, sinabi ni Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán na may kasunduan na dapat protektahan ng Europe ang sarili nito at hindi iasa ang seguridad sa US.
Egyetértés volt abban, hogy az amerikai választási eredményre reagálni kell. Tudnunk kell, hogy nagy változások jönnek, és erre nekünk is reagálnunk kell. Egyetértés volt abban, hogy legyen minél hamarabb béke Európában. Egyetértés volt abban, hogy Európa vállaljon nagyobb felelősséget a jövőben a saját békéért és biztonságáért. Még egyenesebben fogalmazva, nem várhatjuk az amerikaiaktól, hogy csak ők védjenek meg bennünket.
Ayon kay Orbán, sa kabila na magkakasalungat na opinyon sa buong araw ng talakayan, nagkasundo naman sila sa ilang bagay. Kabilang dito ang ukol sa pangangailangan tumugon sa pagkapanalo ni US President-elect Donald Trump. Gayon din ang pagnanais na makamit ng Europe ang kapayapaan sa lalong madaling panahon. Ang EPC ay binuo matapos lusubin ng Russia ang Ukraine noong 2022. Layon nito ang pag-ugnayin ang UE at ang mga kaibigan tulad ng Britain pati na Ukraine. Si Orbán ay isa sa kakonting kalapit alyado ni Trump sa mga lider ng Europe. Ipinagdiwang ni Orbán ang pagkahalal muli ni Trump at sinabing babaguhin ng panibagong administrasyon ang namaling relasyon ng Hungary at Amerika.
Ami az amerikai-magyar kapcsolatokat illeti, ott sok minden elromlott az elmúlt 4 évben. Diszkriminációt kellett elszenvednünk sok területen. Ezeknek a kijavítása lesz az első kérdése az együttműködésünknek az új adminisztrációval. és vannak gazdasági természetű terveink is.
Sinabi rin ni Orban na lumaki lalo ang kampo ng pro-peace sa American election. Anya, hindi sa usaping sino ang mananalo o matatalo, kundi sa mga usaping ceasefire, buhay ng mga tao at pagwawakas sa paninira. Ani Orban, ito ay bagay na dapat tugunan na rin ng Europe. Bernhard Gonzaga, para sa Mata ng Agila, International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Mayroon ng mahigit 1,500 mga Palestino ang nasawi mula sa mga pag-atake sa Israel o sa Gaza dahil sa Israel. Ayon kay Munir Al-Bursh, ang Director General ng Health Ministry sa Gaza, ang nasabing bilang ay sa loob lamang ng 1 buwan. Itinuturing pa nila ito bilang isang massacre dahil sa tinatarget nila ang mga sibilyan sa northern Gaza. Una nang nanawagan ang maraming bansa na dapat tumugon ang Israel at Hamas sa ceasefire para tuluyan na mapigil ang kaguluhan.
Sugatan ng 6 na peacekeepers ng Malaysia na kasama sa United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon o UNIFIL matapos ang naganap na pagsabog sa Seda Stadium sa Lebanon. Ayon sa Malaysian UN peacekeepers na tinarget ng mga Israelis ang ilang mga sasakyan ng sibilyan na patungo sa Beirut. Nadamay sa insidente ang mga sasakyan na nakaparada malapit sa lugar. Magugunitang pinaigting ng Israel ang kanilang pag-atake sa Lebanon para tuluyang mapanagot ang mga Hezbollah militants na nagtatago sa Lebanon.
Ilang buhay na ang nasawi mula sa lumalalang mga kalamidad na kagaya ng wildfires, bagyo at pagbahas sa buong mundo. Tila mas mabagsik na ang hagupit at paniningil na ginagawa ng kalikasan mula sa pagpapabaya at pang-aabuso ng mga tao. Ayon sa huling datos, ay umabot sa 217 ang nasawi sa matinding pagbaha sa Spain. Makikita sa video ang ilang mga sasakyang tinangay ng baha, pati na rin ang kalsadang binalot na makapal na putik. Kasunod dito ay ang pagdeklara ng gobyerno ng 3 araw na pakikiramay para sa mga taong namatay mula sa mga kalamidad. Sa ibang bahagi naman ng mundo, wildfires ang puminsala sa California kung saan ay nasa 132 ang kabuuang infrastruktura ang nasira na. Batay sa ulat ay nagsimula ang sunog sa bundok ng Ventura County at kumalat sa 32 hektarya. Dagdag pa rito ay inilikas ang nasa 10,000 mga katao na ngayon ay nananatili sa mga evacuation centers. Sa kabila nito ay nakahanda ang COP Summit na magpulong para sa nararapat na aksyon sa kaliwat ka ng isyu ng kalamidad, klima at kalikasan. Ang COP Summit po ay kilala bilang UN-organized International Climate Change Conference na nagsasagawa ng taunang pagpupulong. Bahagi nito ay ang pagsasama-sama ng mga world leaders mula sa iba't ibang mga bansa para talakayin ang climate change. Ngayong taon ay nakatakdang isagawa sa Azerbaijan ang COP29 para pag-usapan ang iba't ibang issue na magtatagal mula November 11 hanggang 22. Kabilang sa mga isyung tatalakayin ay ang fossil fuel transition, rules for carbon market, boosting transparency at money for laws and damage. Kasama rin dito ang global warming at ang patuloy na pagtaas ng temperatura sa buong daigdig. Ang pangunahing paksa na tatalakayin naman ay ang Climate Finance COP, kaugnay sa halaga ng perang kailangang ilabas kada taon. Nakapaloob dito ang pagbibigay ng tulong sa mga developing countries na nakararanas sa matinding problema sa usapin ng klima. Kasunod ito ng nalalapit na pagtatapos sa pledge ng $100 bilyong na pondo para sa taunang climate financing target.
Kinumpirma ng Chinese media na dadalo si President Xi Jinping sa magaganap na APEC meeting sa Peru at sa G20 summit na gaganapin naman sa Brazil.
应秘鲁共和国总统博鲁阿尔特邀请，国家主席习近平将于11月13号至17号赴利马出席亚太经合组织第31次领导人非正式会议，并对秘鲁进行国事访问。应巴西联邦共和国总统卢拉邀请，国家主席习近平将于11月17号至21号赴里约热内卢出席20国集团领导人第19次峰会，并对巴西进行国事访问。
Gaganapin ang APEC meeting mula November 13 hanggang 17 habang ang G20 summit naman ay mangyayari mula November 17 hanggang 21. Layunin ng parehas na okasyon na palakasin ang relasyon ng mga nakikilahok na bansa upang masolusyonan ang mga pandaigdigang suliranin katulad na lamang ng ekonomiya, kalakaran, seguridad at pagpapalakas ng global framework ng international community. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagdalo ni Xi Jinping sa mga naturang okasyon ay isang senyales ng pagbubukas ng China na magsimula ng ugnayan sa mas marami pang bansa upang palakihin ang kanilang impluwensya sa mundo. Mapapansing minabuti ni Xi na magsagawa ng mga state visits bilang tugon sa mga imbitasyon ng mga ibang presidente. Ang state visit ang pinakamataas na level ng isang international visit na pwedeng gawin ng isang bansa na nangangahulugang seryoso ang China sa pagpapalakas sa kanyang kabuuang impluwensya sa international community.
America is ready for a fresh start.
I will rescue the American dream.
Get out there and vote. Let's get this done. We're going to vote for a change. We're going to vote to take this country in a new direction.
Isang federal judge ang nagbantang kasuhan si dating New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani ng civil contempt. Ito ay dahil sa kabiguan niyang ibalik ang isang luxury apartment at iba pang mga ari-arian sa dalawang Georgia election workers na pinagkakautangan nito ng $148 million. Prelrogasyon po para sa balita.
Sa Manhattan noong 22 ng Oktubre, inutusan ni U.S. District Judge Louis Liman si Rudy Giuliani na isuko ang property nito kay Ruby Freeman at anak na si Wandrea Shea Moss sa loob ng 7 araw. Si Giuliani ay dating U.S. Attorney at personal lawyer ni President-elect Donald Trump. Ang property ay bahagya ng tutugon sa isang hatol ng Washington, D.C. jury noong Disyembre 2023 na umayon kay Freeman at Moss. Inakusahan ng dalawa si Giuliani ng paninira ng kanilang reputasyon gamit ang kasinungalingan na sinubukan nilang nakawin ang 2020 election mula kay Trump. Ani na Freeman at Moss, tinatanggihan ni Giuliani ang pangungulekta at iniiwasan ang mga tanong kung nasaan ang property nito. Sa pagdinig ng kaso noong Huwebes, binigyan ni Liman si Giuliani hanggang sa 1 linggo na isuko ang property. Samantala, sinabi ni 80-year-old Giuliani na ibibigay niya anuman ang inuutos sa kanya. Nais kunin ni na Freeman at Moss ang Manhattan Co-op Apartment, 1980 Mercedes, sports memorabilia at cash accounts ni Giuliani. Anila may lumimas ng gamit sa apartment ni Giuliani noong 4 ng Nobyembre. Nadisbar si Giuliani sa New York. Nag-plead din siya ng not guilty sa criminal charges sa Georgia at Arizona na nagsasabing tumulong siya sa tangkang baliktarin ang resulta ng 2020 election. Prelrogasyon para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Tinawag naman ni Russian President Vladimir Putin si US President-elect Donald Trump na isang matapang na tao. Sinabi rin niyang humanga siya kay Trump dahil napagtagumpayan nito ang assassination attempts sa kanya. Binati rin ng Russian leader si Trump dahil sa landslide win nito sa US presidential elections. Subalit, inamin din niyang wala siyang ideya kung ano ang magiging itsura ng pangalawang termino ni Trump sa White House.
The outset, I can tell you that his behavior when there was an attempt on his life, I was impressed. He's a courageous person. And it's not just about the hand he raised and his call to fight for their common values and ideals. Of course, there was a rush of adrenaline, but a person shows their true color in these emergencies. And this is precisely one of those cases, and I think he acquitted himself admirably in a valiant fashion as a man.
Naniniwala ang ilang mga analysts na ang tagumpay sa pagkapangulo ni Republican President-elect Donald Trump ay siya namang nagpalabo sa katiyakan ng kinabukasan ng Russia-Ukraine war. Anila, matagal ng kritiko ng nasabing giyera si Trump dahil sa paraan ng pagtulong ng Washington sa Kiev. Narito ang report mula kay Anna Cui.
Matagal nang tinutiligsa ni President-elect Donald Trump ang angtas ng pagtulong ng Estados Unidos sa war effort ng Ukraine. At kahit walang detalyadong paliwanag, nangako ang 78-year-old Republican na tatapusin nito ang labanan sa pagitan ng Russia at Ukraine bago siya manumpa bilang Pangulo sa Enero. Sa ilalim ng administrasyon ni Democratic President Joe Biden, nagbuhos ang US ng bilyong-bilyong dolyares na military at financial aid sa Ukraine. Sa kabila nito, nasusuya ang mga opisyal ng Kyiv sa mga limitasyon pagdating sa paggamit nila ng Western weapons laban sa mga target sa looban ng Russian territory. Ayon kay Ukrainian political analyst Volodymyr Fesenko, malamang ay itutulak ni Trump ang madali ang pag-uusap upang tapusin na ang giyera.
Є певні ризики, пов'язані з Трампом, і це ризики пов'язані з двома обставинами. Перше, Трамп буде ініціювати переговори про завершення війни, він хоче швидкого результату і може виникнути ризик того, що будуть певні поступки в бік Росії. Я не думаю, що Трамп піде на мир тільки на умовах Росії, тому що це виглядало б як поразка США. І думаю, що радники Трампа і навіть він сам це розуміють.
Pula din ni Fesenko na ang US aid sa ilalim ni Trump ay mababago mula grants sa kawangis ng utang o loan.
І сам Трамп пропонував, і республіканці підтримують таку ідею, щоб воєнна допомога Україні була в формі кредиту, в формі ленд-лізу. Це борг для України. Да, платити не зараз, пізніше і на пільгових умовах, тим не менш це додаткове навантаження для нас і проблема на майбутнє. Але хоча б так, це не найгірший сценарій. Це краще, ніж відсутність допомоги взагалі. Проте з високою вірогідністю може бути закрита макроекономічна фінансова допомога для України.
Lumala na ng husto ang tinatawag na territorial losses para sa Ukraine nitong mga nakaraang buwan. Ito ay sa gitna ng paglusob ng mas malalaki at mas mahuhusay na Russian forces sa key sectors ng frontline sa silanging bahagi ng Ukraine. Ito ay kung saan naganap ang pinakamalalaking labanan sa pagitan ng dalawang puwersa mula ng opensiba ng Moscow noong Pebrero 2022. Sa mga panimulang buwan ng giyera, walang usaping pangkapayapaan ang naganap. Sa kasalukuyan, okupado ngayon ng puwersang Russia ang sanglima o 1/5 ng Ukraine. Ayon sa Moscow, hindi maaaring matapos ang giyera hanggat hindi kinikilala ang annexations nito. Samantala, sinabi naman ng Kyiv na gusto nitong bawiin lahat ng teritoryong nawala. Anna Cui, Las Vegas, Nevada, para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Upang makailag sa bantang Trump tariff, sinabi ng gobyerno ng Taiwan na tutulungan ito ang kanilang mga kumpanyang mag-relocate ng produksyon nito palabas ng China. Nagbabalik po si Anna Cui para sa detalye.
Bilyon-bilyong dolyares ang ininvest na ng mga kumpanyang Taiwanese sa China sa nakaraang 4 na dekada. Sinamantala nito ang matagal ng mababang halaga ng produksyon doon. Pero may pangako si President-elect Donald Trump na 60% taripa sa aangkatin ng US na mga gawa sa China. At dahil sa inaalala ng Taiwan ang mas mabigat na pressure mula sa Beijing na tanggapin na ang Chinese sovereignty claims, hinihikayat nito ang Taiwanese firms na dalhin sa ibang bansa ang investment nito. Isa pang alalahanin, nag-invest ng $65 billion sa estado ng Arizona ng US ang pinakamalaking chip maker sa mundo na Taiwanese TSMC para sa bagong factories. Nagpahayag ng saloobin ng Taiwanese lawmakers na maaaring kansilahin ni Trump ang subsidies para sa TSMC. Noong Martes, sinabi ng Economy Minister na kasama sa contingency plan ang tulungan ang mas maraming kumpanya na lumipat na sa US. Samantala, wala pang komento mula sa TSMC ukol sa subsidies na ito. Anna Cui, para sa mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Ipinagmalaki ni US President Joe Biden na ang pagtatapos ng kanyang termino ay maraming may iwang magandang nagawa para sa Amerika.
You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting. but things are changing rapidly. Together, we've changed America for the better. Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up.
Sa kanyang unang talumpati mula nang maihalal sa pagkapangulo si Donald Trump, isa sa mga ipinagmalaki niya ay ang magandang lagay na ngayon ng ekonomiya ng Amerika. Natitiyak din ito na magkakaroon ng magandang transition sa pagpapalit ng pwesto kay Trump. Sa ngayon, anya ay patuloy ang kanyang pagtatrabaho sa nalalabing mahigit 70 araw niya sa trabaho. Hinikayat din ito ang mga mamamayan na huwag nang maging agresibo at irespeto na lamang kung ano ang naging resulta ng halalan.
Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose.
Susunod, Care for Humanity na hatid ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa Vijayawada, India.
Microsoft inilabas ang bagong AI features para sa Xbox.
At 3 katao na may kinalaman sa pagkasawi ni Liam Payne, kinasuhan. Iba pang detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Ang mga maiinit na balita
at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan,
ihahatid namin sa 100%!
100% ang pagbabalita!
100% talakayan!
Lunes hanggang Biyernes!
Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga!
Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila!
At sa Net 25!
100%!
Sa Net 25, let's net together. Sa Net 25.
Vijayawada in India recently experienced the biggest devastating floods in the last 50 years. The overflow of Krishna River caused the floods that affected thousands of residents in the area. Members of the Church of Christ provided them with their basic needs through the Care for Humanity project. Rexy Van Kamamidi files this report.
On the night of August 31st and September 1st, Vijayawada witnesses 290 millimeters of rain in a span of 12 hours. And it was then that the city witnesses the biggest devastating floods. Krishna River at Prakasam Barrage at Vijayawada received the largest ever flow of 11.49 lakh cusecs in the past 20 years.
Because of the flood impact, people who are living in Chitnagar, they are fully affected. They don't have food and they don't have their daily needs. And still they are suffering for that.
And Budameru River on the northern side that causes the biggest devastating in the city after 1964. Through the flood subsided, the effects of it still there, leaving a lot of families in the need of basic commodities.
We are here in Srinagar conducting Care for Humanity for the church members and their guests who were affected by the great flood caused by the overflow of Krishna River. The
village administration continues to help the people who were struck by the calamities, which is the part of the world, through the local congregations of Iglesia ni Cristo. But the aim of the Care for Humanities is not only to help the people of their basic needs, but more especially their spiritual needs.
For now, they are receiving care for humanity. It was very big help to them. So we are very thankful, Brother Edward of Vimanal. Thank you po.
Sa ibang balita, muling pumutok ngayon ang bulkang Lewotobi Laki-laki sa Indonesia. Ito ay matapos maglabas ng makapal na abo. Ayon sa mga otoridad ay walang naiulat na napinsala at sugatan mula sa ikalawang pagputok. Paliwanag nila ito ay dahil una na nilang inilikas ang mga residente sa lugar patungo sa evacuation centers. Matatandaan naman na nasawi ang nasa 10 katao habang 64 ang sugatan sa naging pagsabog noong Lunes. Apektado rito ang higit sa 10,000 mga residente na mula sa 10 mga villages kung saan ang 6,000 sa mga ito ay nawala ng tirahan. Kasunod nito ay nagbigay babala ang mga opisyal na huwag munang bumalik sa kanilang mga bahay dahil sa posibleng muli pang pagputok ng bulkan. Samantala, nakatakdang magbigay ang gobyerno ng $32 kada buwan sa mga pamilya na wala nang mauuwian.
Mahigit 10,000 katao ang inilikas mula sa isang wildfire sa northwest ng Los Angeles. Ayon sa otoridad, maraming bahay ang natupok ng seasonal wildfire doon. Anila, mahigit 20 hektarya ng lupa ang nasusunog noong Huwebes ng gabi pa lamang. Sinubukan pa rin ng mga bomberong maapula ang apoy, subalit dahil sa malakas na hangin ay mabilis pa rin kumalat ang apoy na ikinasira ng maraming kabahayan. May ilan ding sibilyan ang nasugatan. Nag-issue na po ng red flag warning for high winds ang mga otoridad hanggang araw ng Biyernes.
Natagpuan ngayon ang 11 bangkay mula sa isang pickup truck sa Guerrero, Mexico. Ayon sa mga otoridad, ang mga nakitang katawan ay mula sa 9 na lalaki at 2 babae. Dagdag pa nila ay isang residente ang tumawag para magreklamo sa abandonadong sasakyan na naging dahilan para madiskubre ang mga bangkay. Iniimbestigahan na ngayon ang pagkakakilanlan ng mga biktima at ang dahilan sa likod ng kanilang pagkasawi. Bukod rito ay umakyat na sa 2,638 ang kaso ng mga pinapatay sa Mexico. Samantala, nahaharap ang bagong Pangulo na si Claudia Sheinbaum sa tumataas na bilang ng krimen sa kanilang bansa.
Patay ang 2 katao habang nasa 12 naman ang nawawala sa South Korea. Ito po ay matapos lumubog ang kanilang bangka. Ayon sa South Korean Coast Guard, lumubog ang sasakyan sa lalim na 24 na kilometro. Kabilang sa mga pasahero ng bangka ay ang 16 na South Koreans at 11 mga dayuhan. Dagdag pa nila ay nangyari ito nang magdesisyon silang umalis ng Jeju Island sa Port of Sogwipo para manghuli ng makarel. Kasunod nito ay ang unti-unting paglubog ng bangka habang inililipat nila ang mga nahuling isda patungo sa isa pang bangka. Samantala, nagpadala na ang Pangulo ng South Korea na si Yoon Suk-yeol ng tulong at ilang mga tauhan para sa search and rescue operations para sa iba pang mga pasahero.
Nakatakas mula sa bingit ng kamatayan ng isang highway worker sa New York matapos makaiwas sa humaharurot na truck. Kita sa video ang ilang sandali ng pag-iwas ng lalaki sa Interstate 81 Road. Bumunggo naman ang truck sa nakaparadang kotse ng crew bago ito huminto sa gilid ng daan. Ayon sa New York State Department of Transportation, nasa gitna ng roadside maintenance ang crew nang sumulpot ang truck. Wala namang nasaktan o nasawi sa insidente. Nagsagawa ng investigasyon ang State Police hinggil sa reckless driving ng sangkot na motorista.
Niraid ng mga otoridad ng France at ng the Netherlands ang mga opisina ng Netflix sa Paris at Amsterdam. Bata Batay sa inisyal na ulat, may nilabag na tax laws ang Netflix doon. Kabilang narito ang hindi pagsusumite ng mga tamang dokumento at off-the-books work. May hinala rin ang mga otoridad na pinagtatakpan ng streaming giant ang mga pandaraya nito sa pagbabayad ng kanilang buwis. Hindi nagbigay ng komento ang Netflix ukol sa nangyaring raid, subalit sinabi ng opisyal nito na sumusunod naman sila sa mga tax laws.
Sa pagbabalik White House ni U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, hindi maiwasan ng ilang analysts na mangamba lalo na sa mga posibleng maging polisiya na may malaking epekto sa iba't ibang bansa. Nagbanta kasi si Trump na kakalas ang superpower ng Estados Unidos sa NATO at magpapataw din siya ng mas mataas na import tax sa mga produktong manggagaling sa China. May report ang ating correspondent mula Washington, si Jeff Sanidad.
Ayon kay the Asia Group Director Han Shenlin, hanap ni President-elect Donald Trump ang tapusin ang hindi nito natapos na trabaho. Kabilang dito ang pagpapatuloy ng usaping kalakalan na naiwan ng kanyang administrasyon 4 na taon na ang nakaraan.
At least in terms of the U.S. trade policy towards China, my guess is that they'll look back at where the last trade discussion went during the first Trump administration, and I suspect the Trump administration will say that we still have unfinished business here. So certainly the signals we've gotten so far are a lot more tariffs, or at least the threat of that.
Kasama sa mga gustong ipatupad ni Trump na may malaking epekto sa pandaigdigang ekonomiya ay ang pagpataw ng mga import taxes ng mga produktong papasok sa Amerika. Kasama na ang 10% universal tariff sa mga inimport na produkto ng Amerika mula sa iba't ibang bansa at ang 60% tariff sa mga produkto na galing China.
I believe that Trump's threat of 60% tariffs will likely happen, and that he has actually voiced it several occasions in the past, and including his most recent 3-hour interview on the Joe Rogan interview show.
Dagdag pa ni Lin, magiging pagsubok din sa Amerika ang banta ni Trump na kumalas bilang miyembro ng North Atlantic Treaty Organization o NATO, lalo na kung hindi tataas ang budget ng kanilang national defense.
Under the Trump administration, there would likely be an atrophy of the alliance system. So as you look at the various alliances such as NATO, at least those may be weakened a bit, or at least there's going to be more pressure on partners to pay for their share of the protection, for example. So that may be an opportunity for China to allow them a more forward presence within their own geographic area, primarily the Pacific.
Ayon kay Lin, sa pagbabanta ng European Union na magtataas rin ng taripa, maaaring hatiin ng China ang atensyon nito sa pagitan ng dalawang pinakamalaking market nito at sa loob na rin ng EU states. Ito, ani Lin, ay upang pabagali ng ebolusyon ng mas mabigat na taripa. Jeff Sanidad, Washington, D.C., Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagdagdag ang Microsoft ng Artificial Intelligence or AI features sa Xbox para matulungan ang mga online sport queries nito. Ayon sa kumpanya, ang naturang AI feature ay isang chatbot na magsisilbi bilang animated virtual assistant. Una nang inihayag ni Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella ang desisyon nitong ituon sa AI ang lahat ng operations ng kumpanya. Kabilang po dito ang paggamit ng AI models para sa moderation ng ibang brands ng Microsoft. Plano rin ng Microsoft na madagdagan pa ng AI-powered natural language search sa Xbox dashboard para mapabilis ang paghahanap sa mga game titles.
Inanunsyo ni Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn o mas kilala bilang Ray Gunn na siya ay magre-retiro na sa larangan ng competitive breakdancing. Sinabi ng 37 anyos na labi siyang nadismaya dahil sa bigo itong makakuha ng puntos noong Paris Olympics. Hindi kasi nito napahanga ang mga judges sa mga unorthodox routine, kangaroo hops at sprinkler moves noong nakaraang Olympics. Dagdag pa nito na dahil sa mga batikos na kanyang natanggap ay sa tingin niya hindi na niya maaaring ipagpatuloy ang kanyang karera sa Olympics kaya't minabuti na niyang magretiro. Ipagpapatuloy pa rin nito ang pagsasayaw pero hindi na siya makikilahok sa mga kompetisyon.
Samantala, suspendido ng 3 laro si Philadelphia 76ers star Joel Embiid dahil sa pagtulak kay Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes. Kailangan ding magmulta ng higit kumulang $1 milyong si Embiid dahil sa naturang enkwentro. Sa isang pahayag ay sinabi ni NBA Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations Joe Dumars na mutual respect is paramount to the relationship between players and the media in the NBA. While we understand Joel was offended by the personal nature of the original version of the reporter's column, interactions must remain professional on both sides and can never turn physical. Binanggit din ni Hayes sa kanyang column ang kapatid at anak ni Embiid na parehong nagngangalang Arthur, kung saan sinabi nitong kung gustong maging mabuting ehemplo ni Embiid sa kanyang anak at bigyang pugay naman ang kanyang yumaong kapatid ay hindi tama ang kanyang gawain na madalas ipagpaliban ang paglalaro dahil sa injury. Pagkatapos ng 124-107 loss ng Sixers sa Memphis Grizzlies noong Sabado ay pumasok ng locker room ang sports writer para mag-interview. Subalit, noong nakita siya ni Embiid ay binagbantaan ito ng NBA player at tinulak sa balikat. Hindi pa naglalaro sa season si Embiid dahil sa injury sa kanyang kalawang tuhod. Tatakbo ang suspension sa mga laro ng 76ers kontra Clippers, Lakers at Hornets.
Kinasuhan ng mga otoridad ang 3 individual na may kinalaman sa pagkasawi ng dating One Direction singer na si Liam Payne. Ayon sa Argentinian authorities, binubuo ito ng pinaghihinalaang drug dealer, empleyado ng hotel na nagbigay naman ng pinagbabawal na gamot sa singer at isang tao na malapit sa kanya. Maging ang tao na bumisita kay Payne ay kinasuhan ng abandonment of a person followed by death. Base kasi sa autopsiya, nakita sa katawan ng singer ang mga bakas ng alak, cocaine at antidepressants. Base sa natanggap na tawag mula sa 911 isang araw bago ang pagkamatay ni Payne, ay napansin na nila ang bahagyang pagwawala nito habang nasa impluwensya ng ipinagbabawal na gamot at alak.
It's movie time dahil nanguna ngayon ang pelikulang The Wild Robots sa United Kingdom at Ireland box office. Umabot na po sa $2.8 million ang kita na nakuha ng palabas sa mga sinihan na nasa UK at Ireland. Inaasahang malalagpasan nito ang $150 milyong na kita para sa international box office. Dagdag pa rito ang nasa $269 milyong para sa worldwide box office. Agaw pansin sa The Wild Robot ang natatanging animation ng mga karakter, maging ang mismong mga eksena nito. Samantala, umiikot ang kwento nito sa isang robot na si Ross na napunta sa isang isla kung saan ay napalapit ang kanyang loob sa mga hayop na nasa lugar.
Sa ibang balita, good news po sa mga biyahero dahil nagdagdagan China ng visa-free entry para sa 9 na mga bansa. Pasok sa listahan na may visa-free entry ang South Korea, Norway, Finland, Slovakia, Denmark, Iceland, Andorra, Monaco at Liechtenstein. Magsisimula na maging epektibo ito sa December 31 kung saan ipapayagan ng China ang mga bansa na magtagal ng higit sa 15 araw na walang visa. Hahayaan din nilang magtagal ang mga turista sa bansa kung ito ay may kinalaman sa negosyo at pagbisita sa pamilya. Layunin ng China na mapataas ang ekonomiya at bilang ng mga turista sa bansa, kasama ng pagpapatibay sa relasyon nito.
Nakatakdang ibenta ngayon ang pulang jersey ni Michael Jordan na kanyang ginamit mula taong 1996 hanggang 1997 championship season sa Chicago Bulls. Ayon sa Sotheby Auction House ay aabot na sa $4.68 million ang posibleng halaga ng nasabing iconic jersey. Dagdag pa nila ay kabilang ang jersey sa tinatawag nilang Colossal, the Ultimate Jordan Collection. Naisuot naman ni Jordan ang jersey sa kanyang 17 laban kung saan ang isa sa mga ito ay ang tapatan nila ni Allen Iverson noong taong 1997. Bukod po sa jersey, ay ibibenta rin ang 5 pang ibang items ni Jordan, kagaya ng 2 white Chicago Bulls jerseys, flag mula sa 1992 Olympics at sneakers.
Nakiisa ngayon si Prince William sa ginanap na Earthshot Prize ceremony. Ito ay matapos niyang dumalo sa green carpet sa Cape Town. Tampok sa event ang temang Innovative Projects Addressing Environmental Issues, kung saan ay ilang kalahok ang nagbahagi ng kanilang mga proyekto. Dagdag pa rito ay makatatanggap din ng cash prize ang 5 mananalo ng $1.3 million. Matatandaan na taong 2020 nang ilunsad ni William ang Earthshot Prize na nagmula sa inspirasyon ng pagbisita niya sa Namibia. Samantala, nakipagkita rin ang prinsipe sa higit sa 100 at 20 mga batang environmentalists na mula sa Africa at Asia.
Ayan. Busy-busy si Prince William. Kanina pinag-uusapan natin, parang bumabata si Prince William.
Atin na lang dalawa yan kung bakit at saan natin na-obserbahan yan.
Yes,
diba?
pero I think if you keep yourself busy talaga, kahit na nagkaka-EDAD ka na.
Tama.
Diba?
Lalo na kapag nilagay mo yung oras mo sa mga civic tsaka humanitarian work, I think talagang ano yan, makikita na merong glow, inner glow na nagsashine through.
Actually, that's
Kasi
one
magandang
of the advices of the mental health advocates. Halimbawa po, kayo ay nalulumbay, ganon. Isa po yan sa mga aktibidad na talaga makakapag-lift ng inyong spirits and ng energy ang maka-join sa mga socio-civic activities. Ayan.
Tsaka yung kapag alam mo na yung ginawa mong isang bagay ay merong magandang epekto sa ibang tao. Tapos that'll keep flowing, di ba? Gagawin din nila sa iba yun, syempre. Ganda ng
Hindi mo nga
pakiramdam.
alam, di ba, mapangiti ka lang dyan sa kalsada or dyan sa hallway, baka yung ngiti mo na yun ay napaka-meaningful doon sa taong hindi natin alam kami pinagdadaanan, di ba? And so,
tama. Hindi, at saka ang kinaganda, wala kang pupuhunanan dyan, kundi konting muscle movement.
Di ba mas nakaka-wrinkles pa nga pag frown?
Pag naka-frown, kesa pag naka-smile.
So lagi po tayong smile. Pero syempre sana po ay okay din yung mga kababayan natin dyan sa Regions 1 and 2 na talagang binagyo talaga at binayo ni Bagyo Marce. So mag-ingat po kayo dyan parate. At you know, the Filipinos are very resilient. And I'm sure they will find another reason to smile soon again. At tayo nakasmile, Nina, kasi akalain mo, Biyernes na naman.
Di ba? Parang napakabilis ng mga araw, parang hinihila, Rikki.
So sana po ay magkaroon kayo ng isang very beautiful weekend. May this weekend bring a smile to your faces and of course, may you spend it with your loved ones. At tandaan na narito po kami ni Nina mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes para maghatid ng balita sa amang dako ng mundo. Happy weekend, everybody. Ako po muli si Rikki Mathay.
Ako si Nina Rikki Alagao Flores na bumabati rin ng happy weekend. Sana lagi may dahilan para ngumiti. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching Net 25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Today, President Marcos Jr. took a landmark step in fortifying the country's maritime sovereignty by signing 2 major bills into law at Malacanang Palace, the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act.
And to ensure that our rights and duties as an archipelagic state are well defined, in order that all Filipinos can rightfully enjoy the riches of our seas. Our people, especially our fisherfolk, should be able to pursue their livelihood free from uncertainty and harassment. We must be able to harness mineral and energy resources in our seabed.
Meanwhile, China summoned the Philippine ambassador today to express its objection to the 2 new laws in the Southeast Asian nation asserting maritime rights and sovereignty over disputed areas of the South China Sea. And the news starts now. Today, President Marcos Jr. took a landmark step in fortifying the country's maritime sovereignty by signing two major bills into law at Malacanang Palace: the Philippine Maritime Zones Act and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act.
Maritime Zones Act and the Philippines Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. With these pieces of legislation, we align our domestic laws with international law, specifically the UN Convention on the Law of the Seas, or UNCLOS, to improve our capacity for governance and reinforce our maritime policies for economic development and for national security. The first law is the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, which clearly defines the extent of our maritime entitlements and fully declares their metes and bounds in accordance with our Constitution and with the UNCLOS. This is essential in establishing the extent of our maritime jurisdiction and to ensure that our rights and duties as an archipelagic state are well defined in order that all Filipinos can rightfully enjoy the riches of our seas. Our people, especially our fisherfolk, should be able to pursue their livelihood free from uncertainty and harassment. We must be able to harness mineral and energy resources in our seabed. The second law, the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act, complements both our maritime and aerial policies by establishing a route system in our country's archipelagic waters and, as well, the airspace above it. The designated archipelagic sea lanes and air routes aim to facilitate safe passage for foreign ships and aircraft without compromising our national security, nor diminishing our capacity for good environmental stewardship. These sea lanes will offer continuous, expeditious, and unobstructed transit for vessels and air transport, while obliging them to comply with navigational regulations and procedures, as well as with the air rules of flight safety and protocols.
President Marcos urged all relevant government agencies and local authorities to review their regulations and align them with the new laws for smooth and effective implementation. Now, with these two new landmark laws, the President highlighted the Philippines' commitment to upholding a rules-based international order and safeguarding the nation's maritime legacy, ensuring that Filipino waters continue to be a source of life and livelihood for future generations. Meanwhile, China summoned the Philippine ambassador today to express its objection to the two new laws in the Southeast Asian nation asserting maritime rights and sovereignty over disputed areas of the South China Sea.
中国外交部已经就菲律宾出台所谓海洋区域法和群岛海盗法召见菲律宾驻华大使，提出严正交涉。
China made solemn representations to the ambassador shortly after the Philippine President Marcos Jr., signed the Maritime Zones Act and the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act into law to strengthen its country's maritime claims and bolster its territorial integrity. Beijing, which uses an armada of Coast Guard ships to assert its claims, routinely accuses vessels of trespassing in areas of the South China Sea that fall inside the EEZs of its neighbor and has clashed repeatedly with Philippines in the past year. Philippine officials acknowledge the challenges they face in implementing the new laws, with one author, Senator Francis Tolentino, saying he didn't expect a reduction in tensions.
So, merong hindi instantly yung tension sa exclusive economic zone will be diluted. Meron pa rin yun. Meron pa rin yun because the other side, China, is not recognizing this, will not recognize this. Pero the recognition, the imprimatur that we will be getting from the international community would strengthen our position. Ito na yung titulo natin eh.
And today marks a big step in Trump's transition to the White House. President-elect Donald Trump just named his first major staff pick, and that is Susie Wiles, his trusted campaign manager, who's set to make history as the first woman to be White House Chief of Staff. Now, Trump's appointment of Susie Wiles is just the start of his plan to reshape the federal government. Insiders say he's eyeing high-profile names like tech giant Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for his key roles for their key roles in his administration. Meanwhile, President Biden assured Americans that the transfer of power will remain smooth and orderly as Trump prepares to take office.
200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose.
President-elect Trump said he is focused on assembling his team, and he shared that he'll soon lay out his policy goals. Trump emphasized that the political movement that brought him to victory is history and said it gives him a nationwide mandate as he prepares to return to the White House.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's great.
Trump also highlighted his new coalition, which includes his son, Donald Trump Jr., and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, both backing populist conservative policies.
We're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Elon Musk, who has joined Trump in Palm Beach this week, has promised to help overhaul the federal government.
Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that.
Also high on Trump's agenda, deporting over 11 million undocumented immigrants.
And on day one, I will launch the largest deportation program of criminals in American history. We're going to get them out. We have to. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. You know, 1798. That's when they ran the country a little tougher than we run it today. Today, you get a little slap in the wrist when you kill somebody. You kill somebody. Oh. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer.
With a likely Republican-controlled Congress backing his plans, House Speaker Mike Johnson called this the most consequential Congress in U.S. history. Florida Republican Mike Waltz, a Trump ally, believes the lessons learned from the first term will help guide Trump's administration in carrying out his clear agenda.
In Trump's orbit, there really are a number of more establishment, more mainstream, and very experienced foreign policy and national security hands, as well as some new stars, if you will. Mike Waltz, as a potential Secretary of Defense congressman, would be a terrific choice. You also have people like Mike Pompeo and Tom Cotton, both of whom would be confirmed, I think, by the Senate, who I think appreciate the role of NATO and U.S.'s leadership role in the world. There are others in his orbit, like Richard Grenell and Keith Kellogg, who may have a very different point of view. So who ends up in which post really matters, and how they interact with each other. I worked in the George W. Bush administration, both in the Office of the Secretary of Defense and in the Vice President's office at the White House. And the interactions between The Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, and the Vice President were critical dialogue, and there was a lot of tension, sometimes producing good results, sometimes not. That same thing will unfold going forward. I think watching his choices for the key posts and their deputies is really important now.
Facing a tough election aftermath, President Biden reassures the nation, urging resilience and continued action as his party reflects on recent challenges.
Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up.
White House officials say in his final 74 days, Biden plans to push through more disaster aid for hurricane victims, confirm additional judicial nominees, and continue the surge in support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Democrats across the country are analyzing what went wrong, and many feel they should have fared better, especially with the GOP led by an indicted former president. Some Democrats believe Biden's decision to step aside in July left Vice President Kamala Harris with little time to make her case.
Harris had our gargantuan task to come in, fill in for the designated Democratic nominee, and try to win in about 100 days. She came really close, and I think it should be noted that it's a large task. It's a huge task to put together a national campaign in that short a period of time. It was an unknown quantity compared to Donald Trump. And so people didn't necessarily know how she was going to govern, but what they did know was that she was attached to an unpopular administration that had a low approval rating. And people have nostalgic memories of the Trump administration, especially with respect to the economy before COVID. And considering how important that was as an issue in this election cycle, there were a lot of voters who thought that Trump was going to do better on the economy.
The White House press secretary today pointed to post-pandemic inflation as a factor.
In incumbencies, the role, the toll that the pandemic took, even though we were able to lead in the world when it comes to the economy, we saw what happened in other G7 countries. And so that is what we believe. Look, there's going to be a lot of punditry, a lot of election experts who are going to have their opinions, who are going to have their thoughts. But the president is very, very proud of what he's been able to accomplish, and incredibly impressed by what the vice president was able to do.
When asked if Biden regrets the timing of his exit,
President Biden believes that he made the right decision when he decided to step aside and immediately endorsed the vice president, and you saw the party come behind her, support her, and he believed it was the right thing for the American people. He put himself aside. This was not about him. This was about what was right for the American people, and that's what he believes. He believes it was the right decision to make.
In the past, Biden has called Trump an existential threat to democracy, but today he assured Americans,
"We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going."
Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell announced a quarter-point interest rate cut today, signaling the central bank's ongoing efforts to manage inflation and support economic growth. During a press conference, Powell discussed the Fed's strategy to maintain economic stability while working towards its inflation target.
Today, the FOMC decided to take another step in reducing the degree of policy restraint by lowering our policy interest rate by a quarter percentage point. We continue to be confident that with an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, strength in the economy and the labor market can be maintained, with inflation moving sustainably down to 2%.
As the U.S. economy prepares for potential shifts under a new administration, questions arose about the Fed's plans in light of possible policy changes following the election. One reporter asked Powell how the Fed would navigate potential economic proposals from the president-elect's team, particularly with expectations for new policies that could affect the economy next year. Powell responded cautiously, making it clear that while many factors influence the economy, the Fed would not base its decisions on speculation about upcoming policy changes.
In the near term, the election will have no effects on our policy decisions. As you know, many things affect the economy, and anyone who writes down forecasts in their job will tell you that the economy is quite difficult to forecast looking out past the very near term. Here, we don't know what the timing and substance of any policy changes will be. We therefore don't know what the effects on the economy would be, specifically whether and to what extent those policies would matter for the achievement of our goal variables, maximum employment and price stability. We don't guess, we don't speculate, and we don't assume. Now, just in principle, it's possible that any administration's policies or policies put in place by Congress could have economic effects that over time that would matter for our pursuit of our dual mandate goals. So we, along with countless other factors, forecasts of those economic effects would be included in our models of the economy and would be taken into account through that channel.
Meanwhile, the Fed typically operates independently of the White House, but the president-elect had suggested he might want some influence over interest rate decisions.
Whether you would I think I have the right to say, as a very good businessman and somebody that's used a lot of sense, I think I have the right to say that, you know, I think I'm better than he would be. I think I'm better than most people would be in that position. I think I have the right to say I think you should go up or down a little bit. I don't think I should be allowed to order it, but I think I have the right to put in comments as to whether or not interest rates should go up or down.
When asked directly if he'd step aside,
some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No. Thank you very much.
Russian President Vladimir Putin congratulated Donald Trump on his election win, praising the Republican president-elect for his courage during an assassination attempt earlier this year. Speaking at a forum in Sochi, Putin recalled the moment in July when a gunman tried to kill Trump while he was campaigning in Pennsylvania.
At the outset, I can tell you that his behavior when there was an attempt on his life, you know, I was impressed. He's a courageous person. And it's not just about the hand he raised and his call to fight for their common values and ideals. Of course, there was a rush of adrenaline, but a person shows their true color in these emergencies. And this is precisely one of those cases, and I think he acquitted himself admirably in a valiant fashion as a man.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday congratulated Donald Trump for winning the U.S. election. In his first public remarks since Trump's win, Putin said Trump acted like, quote, a real man during an assassination attempt on him, and added that Moscow was ready for dialogue.
If any of the Western leaders want to resume contacts, I have always said, and I want to say it again, we have nothing against it. As you wish, let us resume contacts and hold discussions.
During his campaign, Trump said that he would bring peace in Ukraine within 24 hours if elected, but has given few details on how.
I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin, and I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly.
Reports that Trump had spoken to Putin as many as 7 times since leaving office in 2021 sparked concern in the White House last month.
Do we have serious concerns? Yes, if it is true.
Can you say yes or no whether you have talked to Vladimir Putin since you stopped being president?
Well, I don't comment on that, but I will tell you that if I did, it's a smart thing.
The 2.5-year-old war in Ukraine is entering what some Russian and Western officials say could be its final, most dangerous phase, after Moscow's forces advance at their fastest pace since the early weeks of the conflict.
And the news continues here on Net 25. We'll be right back.
Exclusive! Ina na mula pa sa lalawigan ng Sorsogon, humihingi ng responde para sa anak na may sakit sa puso.
Lahat po gagawin namin
para mapagamot po yung anak namin.
Expose. Nag-trending na parisan sa Quezon City, naloko. Pera na para sa negosyo, nalustay ng kasosyo. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang Responde, Mata ng Mamamayan.
Let's get together, Sunday 25, Sunday 25.
The UN chief warns of escalating climate calamity as 2024 nears record-breaking heat. Take a look.
Today's adaptation gap report is clear. Climate calamity is the new reality. And we are not keeping up. Earth is ablaze and humanity is exposed. This year, we have suffered the hottest day and the hottest seas in the history books. 15 of the past 16 months have broken temperature records. And today, the World Meteorological Organization and partners tell us that 2024 is on track to be the hottest year ever recorded, almost 2 months before it ends. Humanity is torching the planet and paying the price. Climate catastrophe is hammering health, widening inequalities, harming sustainable development, and rocking the foundations of peace. The vulnerable are hardest hit, and taxpayers are footing the bill. While the purveyors of all this destruction, particularly the fossil fuel industry, reap massive profits and subsidies. Meanwhile, the gap between the funds needed for adaptation and the funds available to developing countries is set to reach up to $359 billion a year by 2030.
The remarks were delivered as part of a UN report ahead of the COP29 UN climate negotiations that found the amount of finance provided to developing countries to help them adapt to the impacts of climate change hit only $28 billion in 2022. The UN Environment Programme's annual Adaptation Gap Report stated the gap is set to reach up to $359 billion a year by 2030. The report's author, Henry Neufeld, told Reuters the gap was very large and nearly 10 to 1 based on the lower estimate. Ventura County officials shared some positive news today, saying that firefighters are making headway in containing a wildfire burning just northwest of Los Angeles. The blaze, which started in a hillside canyon on Wednesday, quickly spread west, fueled by the powerful Santa Ana winds. Meteorologist Ariel Cohen from the National Weather Service noted that the winds, which had been intensifying the fire, are starting to calm down, giving firefighters a bit of relief. Still, Ventura County Sheriff Jim Fryhoff reminded everyone that the danger isn't over yet.
We're continuing to work round the clock with all of our partners in the fire agencies and emergency management to ensure that everyone has the information that they need to be able to effectively combat the fires and also support the relief and recovery efforts. At this point in this major, very strong Santa Ana wind event, it's on the decrease at this time. Winds are subsiding over the lower elevations while remaining still gusty across the higher elevation.
I urge everyone to stay out of the areas that are impacted. The fire is still very dangerous. The winds have not completely deceased. We have numerous firefighters out. It's now dark. I don't want any of our first responders getting hurt, so please stay out of the area. On the injuries, we've had 10 confirmed injuries from the fire, most of which were smoke inhalation and otherwise non-life-threatening. To date, we've evacuated over 400 homes, 250 residents choosing to stay and protect their homes, and there were 800 homes that no one was home, so assuming they had either left before we arrived, were at work, or otherwise out of town.
Israel today took swift action, sending 2 planes to bring back fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv's soccer team from the Netherlands following a series of anti-Semitic attacks in the streets of Amsterdam. Amsterdam's mayor, Femke Halsema, confirmed that Maccabi supporters were attacked, abused, and pelted with fireworks, and that police had to step in multiple times to protect them. Riot officers escorted the fans to hotels for safety after the violent encounters. Police arrested 57 suspects after pro-Palestinian demonstrators tried to reach the Johan Cruyff Arena despite a ban on protests. The rise in anti-Semitic incidents in the Netherlands has been linked to the ongoing conflict in Gaza, with Jewish communities across the country reporting increased threats. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office stated that the planes were dispatched following a very violent incident targeting Israeli citizens after the Maccabi Tel Aviv versus Ajax Amsterdam match, with Ajax historically connected to the Jewish community. Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof condemned the attacks, calling them completely unacceptable. Meanwhile, Israel's military sent cargo planes with medical and rescue teams in coordination with Dutch authorities to assist. The conflict in Gaza has led to protests across Europe and the U.S., with both Jewish and Arab communities facing targeted violence.
Eat pizza New York, and the Dutch seller told us be careful because there is a lot of Muslim attacks, and they offer us maybe a cab, maybe to ride in the restaurant until all of this will be over. In the end, we rejected his offer because the hotel was 30 minutes by walk, and we went to our hotel and we saw a lot of demonstrations, a lot of people running. It was really terrifying. It was terrifying.
From big tech's heavy AI investment to groundbreaking innovations in healthcare, this week's AI Roundup explores the highs and lows of shaping the future of artificial intelligence. Take a look.
From how big tech's AI splurge is worrying investors to an avatar powered by Alzheimer's intelligence, this is AI Weekly. Big tech, including Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon, are pouring billions into AI. And it seems Wall Street is worried all that capital expenditure could hit their earnings. The concerns have dragged down big tech stocks in recent days. But Summit Place Financial Advisors President Liz Miller continues to see long-term potential.
I don't think this changes our outlook or the enthusiasm for AI. I'm going to call it a little bit of a course adjustment. All of these companies are established, strong companies. They're used to giving us quarterly earnings. And what they really said is, we're on track, we're taking steps, but maybe it's going to take a little longer than you thought for us to be able to give you data on the revenue streams that follow.
Walt Disney is busy assembling a new team to coordinate the company's use of emerging technologies and artificial intelligence. The media giant is exploring uses of AI, augmented, virtual, and mixed reality across its film, television, and theme park divisions, including for the new generation of lightweight AR/VR glasses. UAE energy giant ADNOC is to apply highly autonomous agentic artificial intelligence in the energy industry for the first time.
It will perceive, think, learn, and act. And it will speed up seismic surveys from months to only days.
The push is led by the government-backed G42, which aims to diversify the UAE's economy away from oil, and which in April received a $1.5 billion investment from Microsoft. Japanese automaker Toyota and telco NTT plan to invest almost $3.3 billion in an AI platform to support driver assist technology to help prevent accidents. Japanese automakers are having to face up to an autonomous driving market, which is increasingly dominated by Tesla and Chinese firms. And an AI-powered avatar has been developed for people living with Alzheimer's and dementia.
I understand that living with dementia can sometimes feel confusing, but you don't have to navigate it alone.
Liv offers advice in response to questions based on the real-life experiences of hundreds of people living with the condition. It's a collaboration between Innovations in Dementia, Lenovo, and the UK's Exeter University.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Have a great weekend. Good night.